What did Keanu say about growing up without a father? How did all the hardships make him the kindest person on earth? And in what ways does the John Wick franchise parallel his life? Hi, I'm Clive. Let's start. Tragedy happened early. Born in the Middle Eastern country of Lebanon, little Keanu didn't really have a happy childhood. When he was only 3, his father divorced his mother, leaving her with 2 kids, Keanu and his sister Kim. At first, he didn't leave for good, and he remained part of his son's life for about 10 years. They'd meet once in a while, and Keanu would even spend a vacation at his place. But at some point, his dad disappeared completely. I spent my last vacation with him when I was 13 years old. On our last day, we sat on the veranda and stared at the dark sky. He hardly said anything that evening, Reeves recalled in an interview. The next day, Keanu's dad took him to the airport, and they didn't hear anything from him for 10 whole years. Only later did Keanu find out that his father was convicted for cocaine possession. They never met again. Keanu was once asked how the lack of relationship with his birth father affected him, and the actor gave a thoughtful and inspiring reply. For sure, I think it's definitely traumatizing, but it's hard to know how it affected me because I don't know what that other life would have been. Well, isn't he right? But the absence of a father certainly made the boy's life harder. Keanu's mom had to move her family around a lot, so Keanu spent his childhood years in many different countries, including Australia, the USA, and Canada. His mom remarried 3 more times, and one of her husbands was a Broadway and Hollywood director, Paul Aaron. It was probably him who inspired Keanu to become an actor. He even worked as a production assistant on Aaron's films when he was 15. Reeves started showing a talent for acting quite early on, and he was always fascinated by the idea of becoming someone else on stage. At the same time, getting a general education became one of the hardest things in his teenage years, because Keanu had dyslexia. He changed high schools 4 times and dropped out when he was 17. Soon afterward, Keanu's Hollywood career began. Like most aspiring actors, he had a long way to go, and first appeared in commercials and low-budget movies, playing supporting roles. He finally found success when he got the lead role in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where 25-year-old Keanu played a teenager. But fame didn't guarantee a happy and peaceful life for Keanu. When it rains, it pours. In 1991, Keanu got an offer to play in the adventure drama film My Own Private Idaho. When he read the script, he realized who was perfect for the role of his character's friend. It was his real-life friend, River Phoenix, the older brother of Joaquin Phoenix. The 2 actors had met 2 years earlier on the set of the black comedy I Love You to Death, and quickly became close in real life. Reeves wanted Phoenix to agree to the role in My Own Private Idaho so much that he even rode more than 1,000 miles on his motorcycle to hand him the script and persuade him to take the part. Phoenix eventually agreed. The movie became successful and received quite a few awards and nominations. But even though Phoenix was perfect in My Own Private Idaho, this role had tragic consequences for him. During the making of this film, River developed a drug addiction, and it eventually took his life. Phoenix died 2 years after the movie's release. He was only 23. His death affected Reeves a lot. An anonymous friend of the actor's once said to People magazine, Keanu thought about his deceased friend all the time, but he'd never talk about it, even with his friends. As if the loss of his friend wasn't enough for him, Keanu was also dealing with his sister's battle with cancer. Kim Reeves was diagnosed with leukemia in 1991 and had been fighting the illness for almost a decade. Keanu never left her side while she was undergoing treatment. His sisters shared how he supported her throughout the years. When the pain got really bad, he would sit with me and hold my hand. He was supporting me and comforting me all the time. Fortunately, Kim managed to overcome the illness, and she's been in remission for about 20 years. Her determination and self-belief, as well as her brother's constant support, helped her to emerge victorious. Since then, Keanu has been determined to help others battle cancer as well. He's donated generous amounts to cancer research and even created a private foundation that helps children's hospitals. But being such a humble human being, Keanu never boasts about his charity endeavors. I don't like to attach my name to it. I just let the foundation do what it does, he commented. It seems like these ordeals would be enough for anyone to handle, but Keanu's biggest tragedy was still ahead. How a fairy tale turned into a nightmare. In 1998, Keanu met David Lynch's assistant, Jennifer Syme, at a promo party for his band Dogstar. They started dating and quickly fell in love. Reeves even described Syme as the love of his life. They were happy together, and only a year after the relationship began, they were expecting a child. Everything seemed to be a perfect fairy tale until one day, when Keanu was working on the blockbuster The Matrix, Jennifer gave birth to their daughter Ava 8 months into the pregnancy. Tragically, the baby was stillborn. Jennifer suffered from postnatal depression, and Keanu couldn't seem to help her cope. Their grief over their lost baby was too much for the couple to handle, and they broke up a few weeks later. Despite being heartbroken, Keanu and Jennifer managed to remain close. They were even spotted having brunch together at least once. But it wasn't the end of this sad story. 2 years after breaking up with Keanu, Jennifer attended a party thrown by Marilyn Manson, who knew her through David Lynch. The shock rocker noticed that she had too much to drink and found a driver to take her home safely. But for reasons we will never know, Jennifer decided to return to the party on her own. She lost control over her car, crashed into 3 other vehicles, and died almost immediately. It was tough for Keanu to cope with her passing, and he never completely overcame it. Grief never ends, but it makes you better. 5 years after Jennifer's death, Keanu was finally ready to open up about his feelings, and he sat down with Parade to give the saddest interview. Grief changes shape, but it never ends, he said, and went on to explain that thinking that it'll go away because time heals is a misconception people have. Reeves also added that when people you love pass away, you remain alone and keep wondering how life would be if they were still there. All you can do is hope that grief will be transformed, and instead of feeling pain and confusion, you will be together again in memory, that there will be solace and pleasure there, not just loss, Keanu said. But it doesn't mean that he's just sitting at home crying all day long. Reeves has always been a nice guy, but grief made him even better and taught him many things. Much of my appreciation of life has come through loss, the actor explained. Life is precious. It's worthwhile. Despite all the pain he has endured, he gained more compassion and empathy along the way. These days, we know him not only for his incredible acting talent, but also for his random acts of kindness. For a while, Keanu lived in hotels, trying to cope with his grief, but even then, he was kind to others. A cleaner in one of the hotels once said that the actor remembered all the staff's names and was always interested in their lives. Besides that, he'd send short notes to the chef saying that he enjoyed his meal, and he even gave a $100 tip to a hotel worker so that they could pay their rent. He's always kind, even to random people he meets. For example, Keanu was on a flight once when suddenly the passengers were told that the plane had to make an emergency landing 100 miles away from their destination. Of course, most passengers were annoyed, and we'd understand if Keanu was too. But he kept his cool and took total control over the situation. He kept everyone updated, helped people get their bags, and gave them options on how to get to their final destination. Along with the other passengers, Reeves hopped on a minibus provided by the airline and turned the emergency situation into a fun road trip, telling his fellow passengers everything he knew about the area and playing road games with them. I mean, being rich and famous, he could have hired a car and gotten to his destination quicker and more comfortably, but he chose to be with everyone else, making their day way better. I am sure they all still remember that epic road trip. Keanu is very different from other celebrities. He's humble. He doesn't spend his money on fancy clothes, and he even rides a subway once in a while. He's just the most beautiful human being, isn't he? It looks like after all the hardships he's endured, Keanu promised himself not to take his life for granted, ever, and make the lives of others better as much as he can. And that has also probably helped him cope. He is so inspiring. What's next for Keanu? It looks like these days, Reeves is becoming even more popular. He's going to star in Bill and Ted Face the Music and in the 4th installment of The Matrix. And of course, we'll see him in the 4th chapter of John Wick, the movie that parallels his life in quite a few ways. Sure, he's not an assassin, but he's just as determined and resilient as his character. And as you know now, he's been through a lot. In an interview with The Guardian, Keanu confirmed that he brought his grieving experience into playing his character. I thought it was one of the foundations of the role of John Wick. I love his grief, the actor said. But these days, it seems that Keanu is finally ready to leave his sorrowful past behind. He fell in love again and is currently in a relationship with artist Alexandra Grant. Last year, they appeared on the red carpet together for the first time. At first, it was unclear whether they were dating or just friends, as Keanu has always been reserved and never shared anything about his personal life. I mean, the man is so private that he doesn't even like it when his fans share his acts of kindness on social media because, as he says, it makes these things less private. But now we know that Alexandra is Keanu's girlfriend. A friend of the actor once shared that Alexandra is one of the few people who could get Keanu out of his shell and open up about his emotions. Due to her positive outlook and support, he could finally turn his life around. The two of them have been friends for 10 years, and they worked together on a picture book, Ode to Happiness, written by Keanu and illustrated played by Alexandra. Very recently, both of them arrived in Berlin to resume filming the fourth Matrix movie after the production was shut down due to the pandemic. They appear to be very relaxed and happy together as both were laughing and joking around with the movie cast and crew. In that sad interview with Parade 14 years ago, Reeves said that he still wanted to fall in love again and settle down. Maybe now his dream is finally coming true with Alexandra. After all, Keanu deserves to be happy. Do you agree that Keanu is the most remarkable human being ever? And would you like to know more about his upcoming projects? Share in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay awesome. Thanks for watching.